This is a beginner's course, so maybe you were either voluntold into the position or you've been just dying to be part of the team from the moment you started your job. Whatever brought you, we're glad that you're here. And we wanted to start you off with just a short video about us.
What's the Washington State Combined Fund Drive all about? As a workplace giving program, we're here to help you make a difference in the easiest way possible. We provide an avenue for you to give to your favorite charities through payroll contribution, credit card, and check. For the past 38 years, our employees and retirees have inspired us with their devotion and commitment to making an impact in communities near and far. So why did they donate through us? Well, with our online giving platform and payroll deduction options, giving is easier than ever. We have access to thousands of charities that you can choose from, and giving through our program is safe, tax-deductible, and anonymous. Together, we have strength in numbers. If just one person donates $5 a month to a local food bank, they could provide around 300 meals to families annually. Now multiply that by hundreds of donors dedicated to that same cause, and we start feeding thousands. We help your charities too. When we provide your personable one-on-one support with your financial investments, we save your charities time and resources and reduce their administrative costs. Your steady monthly giving through us helps charities budget and plan for their year. They have direct access to thousands of donors, and it's free to join. So give through the Combined Fund Drive today. And remember, you make the difference. We just make it easy.
So you might be wondering, all right, so how did we even get here? Well, in 1984, the CFD was created through an executive order from Governor John Spellman with the assistance of Thurston County Auditor Sam Reed. Most importantly, in 2000, the Executive Ethics Board deemed the CFD a part of state business, which allows volunteers like you to use state time and resources to run their campaigns. In 2003, the CFD became official state law through the passage of RCW 4104033. In 2004, the CFD created one of the first online giving platforms for public employees in the country. I know now you're thinking, what's the big deal? Everything's online, but back then we were a pretty big deal. And so we always like to just brag about that a bit. And in 2010, the CFD moved from the Department of Personnel to where we are now, here at the Office of the Secretary of State. But enough about the history. So today's agenda, we will be going over the CFD basics, just the facts and figures, how it works basically, and then we'll go deeper into how the campaign works. We'll break out into a roundtable discussion in our breakout rooms, and this is where we'll discuss communication methods that you can use and fundraising ideas that you're excited about, things you've heard other campaign leaders have done in the past. And we're just trying to give you a good opportunity to talk to your peers and also kind of have us assist if you have any questions or concerns. Then we'll go into fundraising and the necessary practices for that. And we will round it all off with an online presentation of our CFD website at give.wa.gov so that we can give you a chance to look at all of the resources that you have available for you after this meeting. So we're just going to get right into it. And Renee, our fiscal specialist, will kick us off with our CFD basics.
Hi there, I get to go over the CFD basics with you guys today. First, we're going to get to go over some fast facts and figures. Since 1984, we have raised over $164 million. In 2022, $4.2 million was pledged to over 4,700 charities. This helped us maintain our status as one of the top 5 state employee giving programs across our nation. And that would not have been possible without the 1,100 CFD volunteers across our state, just like you guys. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about the different ways to give through CFD. Donors can contribute by donating their money, time, and goods. Now let's talk about giving monetarily. When it comes to giving monetarily, there are 4 options: cash, check, credit card, and the one we encourage the most, payroll contributions. When it comes to payroll contributions, there are 3 options: monthly, one-time, and limited time. Our monthly contributions are the set it and forget it option. This is probably the best way to inspire continuous giving. One-time contributions are often used for fundraising events. And then limited time contributions, we see that they work best when a donor wants an end date to their donation pledges. A great example of this would be donors that are wanting to only give during the campaign season. They can set up their donations to start in October and then end those in December. So they're only giving them their donations for that limited amount of time there. Next slide, please. Another way to give is through volunteerism. You can seek charity information out using our CFD charity search. There, you can also track your volunteer hours through the CFD website tracker form. Layla will show you where to access that later when she gives the online tutorial. And then next slide. New this year, we'll be able to count tangible goods. This is really helpful if your agency is competing in a food and goods drive. You can simply use this QR code to link to the CFD food and goods form to track all the donations given within your event. This can also be used by individual donors if they're donating to independent food banks or like a local food bank drive or charity drive. The benefits for charities, it's fun, it's free, it's easy. We help eliminate their administrative costs, or reduce, not eliminate, excuse me, eliminate their administrative costs. Pledges, they help our charities plan for their budgets for the year to come and access thousands of potential donors. This is kind of an example of how money, how charities generally, oh my goodness, how they market for their funds. So like direct mailings, that's the flyers you receive in the mail. Generally, they're spending $1 to raise $1. With CFD, you'll find that they're not paying anything for the for access to the donors. They're just paying the administrative fee and that's deducted when when they receive their donations. That comes out of their donations at the very beginning. Benefits for the donors. It's easy, it's safe, it's your choice, it's pre-tax, and it can absolutely be anonymous if you choose so. And next, we're gonna kick it off over to Erin, I believe.
I'll actually take this one.
Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
Leila.
No problem. Now I'll just be going over how the campaign works. So the most important, you, our volunteers. There are 3 different roles for our volunteers. We have the executive sponsors, the campaign leaders, of course, and the local coordinators. Now, our executive sponsors are the leaders that are chosen by your agency director. And these are the ones that are going to help you get support from executive management. And the best way that they can support you is if they send emails that are promoting whatever event that's going on that you want to host. They want to assist in volunteer recruiting efforts. If something that's really meaningful for employees or if they even show up to events and they show up to these fundraisers. That's another great way to just get them included as well and just show that everyone from the top down is supporting the CFD and there's just a sort of camaraderie between everyone. Our local coordinators, they're more of this like the foot soldiers, the people that are going to go out there and plan the fun events. They're going to build local teams to help them. They're promoting charitable giving throughout the campaign, and they're reporting the results of their fundraisers to the campaign leader, which is you, of course. And these are the people that you're going to be recruiting. So as campaign leaders, you're going to be the agency-wide CFD lead. So you're going to be the point person that the local coordinator goes to before they're like, I don't know what to do, and go straight to state CFD. You'll kind of be that like big brother, big sister person that will just help them out and like have the answers, hopefully. And if not, we're always happy to help you where you can't fill the gaps yourself. So you'll be recruiting your team. You'll be logging the fundraisers, like I said, that the local coordinators will start hosting. And that's one of like the biggest things that you'll have questions about, and we will have the answers to, and hopefully get that clear for you at the end of this presentation. You can order some CFD supplies, swag. A lot of our things, like I'm going to say later on, are online now, but we do have a few things such as like pens and fun little promotional materials that we have for you. Something that could be fun for you is to build a theme. We have a theme ourselves, but if you amongst your agency want to create a fun theme for the year, a goal that you want to hit, you can always do that. And it's all up to you, and you make the most of your position. So what you want to do, you and your team can think it up and have fun with it. So mostly, like I said, you're going to recruit, you're going to educate people on the CFD. You're going to be that person that's always communicating about what's going on. You can help send emails, all that fun stuff. Like I said, set the goal, make the ask around your employees, let them know like, hey, the CFD is a great program. Like, why not join? Like, why not participate? And of course, like I said, in big bold letters, log the fundraisers. So you might be wondering, recruit, like, where do I start? What do I even do? So a great way is to just like think about your team in a way that will encompass a variety of different skill sets. So you might want a person who's really outgoing, another person oriented, creative, charitable, reliable. All of these things will make a great team member. And variety is just key. You've got to find a balance between everyone. If everyone's really detail oriented and there's no one that's thinking about the fun things, like the fun, exciting things to do, you might be a little imbalanced on that. So those are just things to think about. And for your team, they might be different sizes, and you have to just keep that in mind. All agencies are different. There might be an agency with only 10 people. So of course you might have one campaign leader and one local coordinator. Whereas if you're part of a huge agency like DSHS with 17,000 employees, you might have 20 campaign leaders and hundreds of local volunteers. It all's relative to your size, your agency. And so hopefully that doesn't freak you out if you're part of DSHS, but there's a lot of great people that have been working for the CFD for in campaign leader positions, local coordinator positions. So even though you're beginners, there's a bunch of you out there that are always willing to help. They're wonderful people, and we always have a good time working with them. So like I said, you are always communicating and trying to promote the CFD. And here are a few ways that you can do that. Email templates are awesome if you're kind of bored this month, next month, and you're like, what can I start planning out for the campaign year? You can just set up a few email templates with like events that are happening, maybe like a donor story, something fun, a request for more volunteers, anything in that realm. Social media is a great way to share about CFD. If your agency has social media, you can always do that. We have a social media we have social media platforms as well. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So if you want to follow us, that'd be awesome. I can show you on our website where that is and where you can just get a link to that. We have marketing materials that you can share out. We will always be sending like all campaign leader emails and all local coordinator emails about what's going on constantly. So if you just want to share those out as well, like I said earlier, always great to have good communication with your executive sponsor. Something that could be really fun is speaking at your agency celebration. You know, everyone's having a good time. You can take just 5-10 minutes, ask if there's a little spot where you can promote the CFD and say, hey, this is something we as a whole agency can look into next year. And I think that'd be a great way to just get a little screen time for the CFD in our program. You can also invite charity speakers at your agency meetings, which is just a good way to, I don't know, just break up the daily or the weekly or whatever amount of time you meet and just bring someone new to the table and inspire someone in the morning, like at 8 a.m. if you're having a meeting. And in those emails that I was saying earlier, you could always add a donor story or volunteer stories. We have had many people that have been giving for years, and to just hear why they give or why they volunteer would be awesome, and another way to just inspire giving and inspire people to really get into the CFD. Being about inspiring people, we always think it's great to have a theme for the year. So last year our theme was Give to in 22, which kind of really focused on participation. Like we were trying to get people to just donate as little as $2 a month, like that, as long as you're giving something. And so in this year, we just wanted to make it a little more fun and play on to the 23 again. So we did 23 and B. And this is just leaves an opening if you say like 23 and be bold, 23 and be giving, 23 and be a volunteer. You know, you leave that up to you and for you to play with a lot. Something our team has been looking into, which could be fun, is a state CFD spelling bee, you know, things like that. You can just play on with it, use the bee theme if you want. And so that's what we are going to be doing next, or this upcoming campaign. Like I said, everything is really online these days, but so I have PDF posters for our theme if you need. We have thank you card templates. We also do have physical thank you cards. So I will show you later in our online website or our online presentation where you can find the swag that I'm talking about here, like that you can order. And so mostly things are virtual, but we do have things like pins, pens, lanyards, all that. So you can just look on the website when we get there. All right, well, that's enough of me. Robert is going to take it away with our disbursement.
Great, thank you. So feel free to ask questions as they pop up. I know someone already felt the desire to, but we encourage you to have this and be interactive. We will stop and ask questions and really just meet people where they're at. We intentionally have these spaces be more intimate where we can kind of field questions as they pop up. If you're completely overwhelmed, if you're like, Robert, you all have been talking for 23 minutes and I still don't know what's going on, please help. That's what we're here for, really. We couldn't do this without volunteers like you. There's just 4 of us running the statewide operating system, but we rely on, nearly 120 campaign leaders and almost 900 local coordinators across the state. So yeah, it's quite a feat, but we're here to really answer questions. So feel free to type in the chat or raise your hand, whatever you need. The swag is complimentary, and why we don't offer a whole lot of it is I'll actually explain it here in the next little bit. So that's a great question. One of the things that people will ask or they'll get a little confused about is they said, well, I'm going to donate to my favorite foundation, the Robert Lane Foundation, right? And so I donated $5 last week. Did they get my money already? And it's really important for people to know that because we're a statewide system, we collect all the funds from all the individual peoples throughout a quarter, and we disperse to those charities on a quarterly basis. You don't need to memorize the dates, but what is important is that you know that when people donate last week, right, that charity is not going to get the check right away. And instead of getting 600 $5 checks from Robert and 500 of his friends, they're going to receive one check, and they can actually, and we encourage them to sign up for electronic deposit. And so instead of having to kind of process all of these things, going back to why it's efficient for our charities to join, is it really makes it easy for them. So individuals can basically add, edit, remove, increase their donations whenever they want. The biggest thing is there's about a 2-week lag time. So, right, if you're getting paid tomorrow, you can't cancel the donation that you were expecting to pay tomorrow, or you can't add a donation because HR starts that process multiple days before the payroll system. And so we have about a 2-week lead time is to make any adjustments to your donation. What happens is we send files to each agency and we say, hey, we're expecting X amount of dollars from these amount of people. And then the agency sends back a file and says, here's, that amount of money. And then Renee goes, yep, everything checks out. Occasionally, someone goes on bereavement, someone leaves the agency, someone forgot about something. And so we have to kind of figure out, like, why didn't we receive that money? Or we received money, but we weren't expecting it. And so that's why we have that quarter system where Renee has a couple weeks to figure out where the money is supposed to go before it goes out. It also allows for mistakes to happen when people accidentally sign up for payroll contribution and go, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to give $500, I meant to give $50. We can fix that in the open quarter because we have not given the money to the charity. It looks really bad when you've sent money to a charity and then you say, can I have that back? So instead, in this open quarter, it kind of allows that flexibility. We see very minimal requests to cancel a donation. What will happen is, economic downturns happen. So like, right, when we hit record inflation last year, we had some people decrease the amount of donations that they were giving, or as people approach retirement, you'll see people kind of drop some of their donations off or lower them so they can sustain them into retirement. But generally speaking, people can go in and log in and edit their profile themselves, or they can call or email us and we'll help them. But refunds are far and few between. It's pretty much if someone makes a mistake more than anything else. No one usually goes, oh my gosh, I don't want that money to go there. It was, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I added an extra zero, or I meant to do $50 total, not $50 for each charity. Something like that usually happens. Most often than not, it's user error, and we know that, and it happens, so we just adjust accordingly. Next slide, please. And so something that is also important to recognize is the Combined Fund Drive is a state operating organization. So we are housed in the Secretary of State's office. However, we are our own independent governmental nonprofit. And so we operate as an auxiliary service, which means we have to pay for the things that we spend. We are not funded by general fund dollars in the traditional sense. And so we try to fundraise to offset that cost. And that's kind of what Renee was talking about when we were talking about that 10%. And so ways that people can raise money for us are through payroll contributions. So if someone just says, like, I just love philanthropic giving, they can give to the CFD and it can help us sustain running the program. Sometimes agencies don't want to highlight one charity over another. They don't feel like it's fair to promote one of the 4,700 charities. And so they'll choose us as the beneficiary. So they'll do a chili cook-off and all money raised goes to the Combined Fund Drive and keeping it running. We work really hard, and again, we get to break some of the rules because we're a governmental nonprofit, is we can have corporate donations. And so Washington State Employee Credit Union, Twin Star Credit Union, and Puget Sound Energy all partner with us and help sustain some of our programs by offering us either in-kind donations or some monetary donations to help us run the program. So they get like naming rights. So Twin Star is the naming convention of our leadership breakfast is sponsored by Twin Star Credit Union. So they give us the money to put on that event. We bring in a keynote speaker, we get people breakfast, we talk about our campaign coming up, and we don't have to necessarily tack that on to people's donations because we're really trying to be good stewards of people's money. But there is a cost to running campaigns. And so primarily there's 4 categories of our operating expenses. The CFD staff, so the 4 individuals that are running this program, are paid out of that fund. Agency refunds. So again, one of the strange things about our program is it's really about the agency gets to choose how much they are involved and how much they cover. So if Department of Corrections wanted to absorb the cost for every event that they put on and they just had it built into their general fund money, that's totally legal. Looking at the ethics board decision, the 00-09. However, if Department of Corrections, for example, says, we really want refunds on that, we can refund you. It just costs us money. And if we can't cover our expense, we have to increase our administrative fee. So it's all about this balance where we want to be there. We want to help you be successful. But we also want you to be cognizant of how much you're charging, how much you're asking for a refund. Do we need to spend this additional money? Because at the end of the day, the more money we spend, sometimes you have to spend money to make money. That's true. That's how a lot of nonprofits work, including our own. But where is the mission critical versus exorbitant or extra? And we don't necessarily need that. Event contracts. So when we rent a space, when we're putting on training. So next week when we're in the Capitol, we have to pay for the rental space. And then IT equipment. So running a donor management system does not sustain itself. So we have to outsource some of that to our IT, our fiscal team, and then occasionally third-party vendors for supporting any of our programs. So whatever cost remains are charged an administrative fee. Again, we really strive to keep that under 10%. So that means every dollar you donate, we keep about 10 cents to run the program itself. So the more we fundraise and the more we get donated, the lower our administrative cost is. So if we get more people involved in the CFD, there's more money to spread around, so that percentage goes down. We're not in the business of making money. We're not like a foundation at a community college or a nonprofit that has an endowment. We pay our bills every quarter and we give the rest of the money away. So we don't keep a nest egg for rainy days. We pay what we need to, and then we get as much money as we possibly can to our charities. So I know it's a little boring, but it's really important for you to understand how we run and how we operate. So I hope that clears it up, and I'm happy to answer any more questions if anything pops up. Next slide, please. I think my team decided that I'm the most extroverted person, so I have to do all the really boring slides, so just please bear with me. The next one is ethics in the CFD, and basically it's just reiterating that conducting CFD activities on state time is completely legal. The really big challenge, like I said in the previous slide, is it's up to each individual agency. I can tell you each agency really chooses something different. Department of Ecology, for example, super involved, but they've decided as an agency they want all their events to happen in October, and then they really don't want to do a bunch of CFD events the other 11 months out of the year. So they plan the couple months leading up, they have to do all the close up the couple months leading after, but everything's really concentrated. Healthcare Authority, for example, does a few small events throughout the year, and then they run with all of the events that we push out at the statewide level. Some agencies literally just take the emails that we send out and send it to their people, and that's all they can do right now. And we understand that building capacity is challenging at times and takes years, but it is legal, and we're happy to have those conversations with your leadership if you're ever getting pushback of like, well, we can't do that on state time. You can. It's a legal part of state business. And so it's completely doable. We just can't spend government money directly to a nonprofit. So Ecology can't write a $500 check to hit and rescue mission. They can use money to put on a charity fair that brings in a bunch of charities to educate individuals, but they can't be directly funding. We can't use a gift of public funds, basically. All those rules still apply. Similarly, you can conduct CFD activities. So you can use employee times, you can use your state computer, you can use copier equipment, things of that nature. Of course, just check in with your leadership. And what's really important is that you understand what the rules are. So when you get your local coordinators, you can explain those rules to them, because each individual agency is going to be a little different. And if you're having issues, like I said, we're really happy to meet with your leadership to explain, to point them in the right direction, and show them that getting involved in the CFD is a retention tool. A lot of people will nest these kind of roles into community engagement or HR, because people who are invested in workplace giving programs generally feel more connected to their organization. They feel like they belong. They feel like there's something bigger than just working in Secretary of State's office, etc. Next slide, please. Similarly, again, this is a little fringe. Some people like to do like silent auctions at their events. Again, you can solicit as a CFD volunteer. That's okay. If you're part of a regulatory agency, check in with your HR and your leadership, because they might have stricter rules in place because of the agency that you belong to. And just check in with them, please. I don't want to get you all in trouble. But we do have solicitation letters. They're on CFD letterhead, and they have my signature on it. And so it can help you kind of solicit for any of those in-kind donations. And if you're unable to solicit for in-kind donations, you can reach out to us if you had an idea of who you wanted to reach out. And we can, with our limited availability, at least get some emails out and see if there's any traction. Next slide, please. Again, if you're able to and your agency allows, again, it's all up to your agency on how much they allow. So obtaining permission to solicit businesses for in-kind during work hours, that sounds great. Don't do it without checking in with someone first, please. And another example and recommendation is to identify yourself as a CFD volunteer first and not as an employee at your agency. Of course, we're not trying to be misleading. You can follow up with, and I work in X, Y, and Z. But when you go to someone and you ask for a donation, if you say, "Hi, I'm with Department of Corrections and I'd like you to donate something for free for our silent auction," they're going to say, "I pay you taxes, get out of here." And not necessarily understand that we are a nonprofit supporting other nonprofits. And so we just encourage you to identify yourself as a CFD volunteer first. And then, of course, you can follow up later with what department you're for or what benefit you're trying to accomplish. And then another kind of fringe thing, if this doesn't apply, just bear with me for just a second. Oh, it looks like we have a question, so I will stop. Anita, what question do you have?
Thank you. So I'm trying to understand in kind. So let's say I at DSHS want to have an event, right? And let's say it's like a silent auction or a chili cook-off or something like that. The in-kind donation to that would be something that we are raffling off, and then the funds go to CFD. Or people donate chili, people buy tickets to eat the chili, we donate that to CF. So the chili is the in-kind, or the TV or the whatever is the in-kind donation. So we have to be careful about logging those in-kind items is what you're saying?
The in-kind is more for external. So if I'm going to Panowitz Jewelers and saying, "Hey, would you donate a $500 piece of jewelry for a silent auction or for something along those lines," that's where it gets a little more. You just want to check in with your agency first to make sure that that's something that you all can be doing on your time, or if you have to do it on your off time, or if you can't do it at all. And that's just because we want to be really clear about who we are when we're asking external stakeholders. Otherwise, like if we're doing like a chili cook-off in your example of that, we don't have to really be like, it's, hey, everyone bring their favorite chili. It's a $5 entry fee. And then the winner, you could do it a couple different ways. All proceeds go to the CFD, or you could say everyone donates $5. The winner of the chili cook-off feed gets to decide which member charity the money goes to, right? And so you can kind of make it a little enticing, because some people are like, well, I don't get a cash prize, like, and there's a lot of different viewpoints, right? Some people are saying, well, if I don't get anything out of it, then I don't want to donate. Other people say, I don't even want to talk to those people, because you shouldn't have to get something to donate. You should just give out of the kindness of your heart. And so there's these different philosophies. So I try to give a lot of examples, but
Can I go back to the ring thing? So let's say I go to the jeweler as a representative of DSHS CFD. Do you provide some sort of documentation to that vendor that they can use to write that piece of jewelry off as a tax deduction or something like that?
So our solicitation letter indicates our 501c3 status, as well as our Washington State registration. And then we do have like a donation receipt log that
Okay.
it's a template that you kind of fill out for them, and you can provide it to them. But yeah, so we do that. If they want a receipt, like a donation receipt or something of that kind, we can produce that. It's a template that we just give to the campaign leaders to be able to fill out, because you all are probably accepting that on behalf of the CFD, since we're not physically there. So you would have a better understanding of what we received.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then I have another one. I just can't see. I see a hand up, but I can't see who it is yet. I'm not quite in the.
It's Yvonne.
Oh,
Stockham
Yvonne.
from DOC. Hi. So I have a question pertaining to kind of that in-kind. So I'm thinking of a fundraiser. Let's hypothetically say, hey, I want to do a dunk tank and have, an executive in there, and you have to pay, $5 a ticket or whatever. So if I went to a company and said, hey, we're doing a CFD fundraising event, would you be willing to donate the dunk tank for these 2 or 3 hours? Would that be considered an in-kind situation or not?
Yeah, so I mean, it's technically a solicitation for free services, so it would be considered in kind. So again, I would just check in with your agency, see if that's okay with them. If not, how you have to go about it. Each agency is each agency's either attorney general or legal team or HR is a different level of calculated risk of what they're willing to do or not do. And so we're happy to help navigate that. But, or, if your agency is just flat out like that's a no-go, then you can pay for that service and either ask for a refund, or if you don't want to hit the administrative cost, you could know, if the dunk tank is $200, if you raise $300, $200 goes to the CFD to pay for the cost that you're going to request as a refund, and $100 goes to whatever charity you were hoping to donate to, or something along those lines. Or you can ask for the full $300 in refunds, give to your favorite charity, and we'll take that administrative hit to refund you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No problem. Good questions. I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to continue on, but feel free. I know that sometimes you have an idea, and so you just want to like jump in, and that's what this is all about. So no worries. One of the other kind of more specific events is raffles and gambling. So again, this is like the murky gray area that some agencies are just adamantly against, because it's more risk adverse, or no, less risk adverse. It is more risky. There's more opportunity for issues to pop up. And so raffles and gambling, raffles are permitted technically, but the CFD can't raise more than $5,000 in raffle fundraisers per year. So why that makes it really challenging is, if you're a 10-person commission, you probably are not going to hit that $5,000 goal. If you're DSHS, you have 17,000 employees. If you get a third of your employees to buy one raffle ticket, you've hit that number, and it becomes a whole pain when we have to do a bunch of extra stuff with the gambling commission, and it's not fun, not fun, not legal, and it's a whole mess. So if you do raffle tickets, things that you have to remind yourself, you have to be very transparent. You have to treat it like cash. So the raffle tickets then start acting and following all cash handling procedures. And you have to sell them 1 for 1 or 5 for 5. You can't do 1 for $1 or 5 for my arm length. Like, they have to have equal value, and we have to treat them like a currency, and treat it fairly like a currency would. Gambling is prohibited and defined as a contest where the elements of prize, chance, and consideration are present. This gets a lot of people all sorts of turned around because it's a lot of legal jargon, but something like bingo is gambling. We had some people who would do like a $5 bingo entry, and then the winner got, half the cash prize or half the money, and then the other half went to a charity or something along those lines. And that's gambling, right? And so the ways that there are legal workarounds, you can remove the chance of a prize. So the winner gets to choose where all the money goes to, but they can't choose themselves. They have to choose a charity, right? So that's a way to legally not make it gambling, because you're not the beneficiary. You don't get a prize for winning. But just know that gambling and raffles just require a higher level of scrutiny. And so if you're planning on doing either of those, just reach out to us early and often, and we'll get you situated as best as we can and give you the best advice that we have. We do have a document on our website, Layla can point it out later, that kind of goes over, is it gambling? And it's like an FAQ worksheet that we worked with the Gambling Commission to kind of make sure that it's sound, good advice for you all, to just make the best choices possible. Nobody likes a lawsuit, so we like to just keep y'all well informed. Next slide, please. So we're going to break just for a little bit. We know we've been talking at you for almost 45 minutes. And so, Layla, 5 or 10?
We're going to take 5.
Okay, so we'll take 5 minutes. Please go ahead and stretch, grab a water, whatever you might need. And when we come back, we'll be talking about some possible fundraising ideas that you've either thought of, that you've heard of. And so we'll have an opportunity to just kind of share any information or questions you might have around some fundraising. So it'll be a little more interactive. So let's take 5 minutes and be back at 1:52. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, Daniel, I will have the slides up on our volunteer website on your resources.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Erin's gonna break this out into how many, Erin? 2 or 3 breakout rooms?
We have 2 breakout rooms. Once I open the rooms, 2 of the CFD team will then be joining you. This is your opportunity to kind of share any fundraising ideas that you may have or are interested in, kind of do some brainstorming. So go ahead and get started. You'll have 11 minutes and there'll be a countdown once that time gets a little closer. And we'll see you all soon. Okay, so because we were people, I couldn't assign you to rooms. So I was thinking, Robert and Layla, I think you can click on rooms and then go into room 1, and then Renee and I can go into room 2.
Okay.
So you click on rooms, and then on the 3 little dots, click on that, and then join room.
Okay.
Which
Got
one
it?
am I going to? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Robert, Layla, room 1. Renee,
1.
me, room 2. Let's go.
Got it.
I think we're all back. I feel like it's always abrupt. You just, bam, everyone's gone.
I know, I see the time, then I'm gone.
So for those of you that are interested, we will have time at the end to just kind of keep talking about either fundraisers or ideas that you have. So we don't want you to feel rushed. But there are some people who might not opt into any fundraising outside of what the CFD state provides. And so for the sake of that, we'll keep the program moving, but we will circle back to that at the end for anyone who wants to stick around and keep discussing more ideas.
Okay, and with that being said, we're going to have Erin kick us off with the fundraisers necessary practices.
Okay. So again, fundraisers aren't necessarily something that you have to do. They're just something fun that you can do if you have the time and the capacity to kind of facilitate these type of events. So some key things when planning your fundraiser is to set your budget, because ultimately you don't want to spend more money than you anticipate on raising. That may seem like one of those, of course I know this, but just keep that in mind when planning any fundraising events. Another thing to take note is that you'll want to make sure that you're selecting an active charity that will be receiving these donation dollars. The easiest way to do that is you can go onto our website and check our charity guide, and you can search by name, or if you know their tax ID number, you can put that in there. Easiest would probably be searching by name. And then if they pop up, that means they're active and you can make your fundraiser in support of them. You can choose to support multiple charities, but to make it easier on yourselves, because ultimately one of your tasks is to enter these fundraisers into the CFD system. It's easiest if you have only 3, so we recommend that. And then if you choose to also support the CFD as one of those 3, we would not be sad. And then you will want to communicate to your volunteer team. So these are going to be your local coordinators in the different divisions of your agency, that all fundraising events run through you. So before they decide, hey, I'm going to do a bingo where the winner gets to choose bingo where the winner gets to choose the charity that wins. They just need to let you know that it's happening, so you can guide them through the steps and make sure that it's not gambling. And then if you have any questions, you can reach out to us and we can provide more guidance. And then next, you'll want to find out who in your agency's fiscal department will manage these dollars that you are collecting. And that's primarily with any cash donations that you may be receiving. If you choose to do that, we're trying to steer clear of that option of donation. But if you have folks that really, want to donate cash, then that's a whole different procedure. And I will go into detail about that further in the slides. And then finally, when you are done with your fundraiser, it has concluded, you'll want to make sure that you download all the appropriate forms and have them filled out and sent to our office, ultimately so that we also know where these donor dollars are being routed to. And Layla will be able to show you online where those forms are. And we have a video. So some important tips when hosting any fundraising events. And if you're choosing to have folks fill out paper contribution forms, say you have an in-person event and you have the forms, you will need to have them all collected and send them into our office right away. We have to manually input all that information into the system. And the reason that we need them right away is because some folks maybe in the past have kept them and decided, I'm going to wait until the end of the campaign or December timeframe and then send them all at once after all my events are concluded, after if they had multiple. And the problem with that is that your participants are donating these dollars, and they may be assuming, hey, I did this bake sale, I bought a bunch of goods, and I expected my money to come out of that October paycheck because that's when I participated. But if you wait till the end of the campaign year, or if you're just keeping all these contribution forms, and then we don't get them till weeks later or whatnot, and then this donor is not getting the money taken out till January, February, there's confusion. There may be that they may be upset because they didn't budget for it at that time for this money to come out. They expected it to come out in October. So send them in when you're done. It just makes it a lot easier for everyone all around. Another thing to take note is to consider pay dates when planning a fundraiser. We've seen that helps have higher participation with folks in wanting to be a part of these events. There has been some survey out there where the 10th tends to be better than the 25th. The 25th is when people are like planning on having that be the mortgage payment or for your car or whatnot. So bigger chunks of money are being utilized for the 25th rather than the 10th, where they might have a little more free income to be a part of your fundraising event. And then next, the CFD must have a record of your agency fundraisers. This just helps keep us in the loop so that we know what's happening. If we're receiving batches of money and we don't know who it's coming from or who it's for, it does a lot of back and forth legwork to figure out where this money needs to go. So, and then again, consider us if you'd like to donate to the CFD. So one popular fundraiser idea is silent auctions. If your agency is interested in doing a silent auction, the preference to collect these donor dollars is via an online payment link that we can create for you. This also makes it easy, especially if you have folks that are in that hybrid environment. If you did an online silent auction and you're wondering, how am I going to collect the funds from this? We can help you with creating the payment link, and the payment link will allow your participants to either donate via credit card or through payroll. And for the next little tip, there may have been some silent auctions that you have participated in the past where maybe you had that opportunity to buy this big item and then split your payments over the year. So we're trying to really rein that in as much as possible. And that's mostly so that you know that you are fully collecting the money that you anticipated on raising. And we try to limit that to have payments over 3 months. There's a nifty little form that, or contribution form specifically for silent auctions that break the payments into 3 months. And then Layla can also show you where that's at. And again, it's mostly because you don't know where folks are going to be in the next 3 months. maybe they're going to have an awesome opportunity at a different agency or private entity, and then they leave. And once they leave, there's no way for us to collect this money that you thought you were raising for your event. And then again, make sure you turn everything in at the conclusion of your fundraisers. Next slide. Okay, so cash handling. Again, if you have the folks that really want to donate via cash monies, we can do it. Just check with your fiscal department to see what kind of internal cash handling and policy procedures that they have. You'll want to safeguard that money and keep it in a lockbox. That's the best way to make sure that it is safe. Always have 2 volunteers watching over the money that you're collecting. And this is just to protect yourself, protect everyone around you, to ensure that there's another person there watching your back with this money. And then since you're going to have the 2 folks, count it out, have the other person watch, have them count it out, just so you're on the same page and you have the amount that you thought that you had before sending it to your fiscal department. Next slide. So if you did decide to collect cash during your event, and again, it depends on your agency, and if you have access to your fiscal department, so you can take this cash, send it to your fiscal department, and then they will then transfer it to our department via electronic transfer. If you don't have access, then you can get a money order or a cashier's check and then send it into our office. You'll want to make sure that it is made out to the combined fund drive. Please do not deposit that money into personal paychecks and then try to send us a check. Again, that's just to safeguard you, protects you when you're not putting it into your own bank account and then writing us the check. If you are, this is like last resort, if you are within walking distance or drivable distance to our office, we are located in the Capitol building, you can deliver the money to us and then we can take care of it for you too. When you bring us these cash dollars or any fundraiser event that you have concluded, you'll want to ensure that you utilize the fundraiser transfer form. Again, this gives us the necessary information that we need so that we know what's going on, and then submit those forms to our office by December 8th. Make sure that you save a copy of all your documents, your step-by-steps, your how-tos. This will help any future campaign leaders that may be deciding, hey, I want to do an event and I want to do this same exact event that we did last year, because even though we would love for you to be our campaign leader forever and forever, we know that's not the case, and you may need to pass the torch on to somebody. And so instead of having them start from scratch, it'd be nice to have something that you could potentially pass on to them. So keep those documents. And then, like I said before, send them to our office. And then this is also another opportunity to share the results of the fundraiser with your agency, celebrate, say, look what we did. We raised all this money for XYZ charity. Just feel good about all the work that you've done. Next slide. So, reimbursement. You're thinking, you know, I am at an agency, we're not allowed to solicit for in-kind, or I have folks that don't want to participate. I'm going to buy all these things and then get reimbursement. We try to steer clear from this aspect because ultimately that goes towards the administrative fee, which then gets charged to the charities. So then the charities are getting less money overall. We do have a little budget for it though. So if you did need to submit reimbursement, these are the steps. We are not allowed to reimburse individuals. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to get reimbursement from your agency. The agency will then complete an A19 form, and they will also have copies for the receipts themselves. And they will be submitting that to our office. So you get reimbursement from your agency, submit your receipts, and then the agency will submit an A19 to us at the Secretary of State Combined Fund Drive, and we will reimburse the agency. There's that December 8th date again. Ultimately, we're trying to wrap everything up in the calendar year. We run from the January to December timeframe because that's when charities run their fiscal years. So that's why we have that date repeated multiple times. That ensures that your charities that you're raising these funds for get them in a timely fashion. If you are submitting donor dollars and funds after the 8th, then it's possible that the charities will not receive their funds from you that you were trying to collect for them until Q1, which for Q1 we disperse around April timeframe. So that's where the caveat is there. They'll get it, but they might get it really much later than anticipated. Next slide. Before we go on to the online tutorial, were there any questions? That was a lot to absorb. Fundraisers. I don't think we answered this question. Here we go. If staff uses payroll deduction for their purchases. Oh, yep. Never mind. Renee got it. Okay. So now I'm going to hand it on to Layla. She will have an online tutorial. She's going to show you where all these necessary forms are for you to utilize.
All right, thank you, Erin. Before I get into it, if any of you have heard something and you just want to absolutely make sure that I show you it, you can just throw that in the chat now. I should be covering all things that we've talked about, but there's a lot on our website. So if there's something that you just really have no idea about and need to see it visually, I am also a visual person, so feel free to throw that in the chat. Okay, so our website is give.wa.gov. Here is our homepage, and I talked to you about our social media earlier, and so these little icons here is where our social medias can get linked, or you can link yourself to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on our YouTube page, you go here in our little thing. Here's our YouTube page where we're actually a new team as well. I think oh, sorry. We're maybe like 2 years old as a team, but the past team used to make a bunch of fun videos, and so we're still kind of getting back into that as we get our feet in the ground. And so Erin and I had done a logging fundraisers video. I know someone asked about that. So you'll find different videos that we're slowly trying to make. In 2020 or earlier this year, we ran an event called Well Fed Well Read, where we tried to make a fun little video. So you can always feel free to share these videos that we make, and we try to add them in our email threads, but they're always just something fun for us to do and to get people excited about. So yeah, that's where some of these will be living. All right, so back to the homepage. We have our 2022 campaign report, which in our breakout room, we kind of went over, but I think it's important to just showcase kind of the things that we record and report over the year or the campaign. So in 2022, like we said, we pledged $4.5 million with 15,000 donors. And so our annual report kind of just goes over all those numbers, gives a breakdown of our donors, the participation, which is kind of good for you, which is great for you to know actually, to see what types of participation percentage your agency has had, and the amount of donors they have and everything like that. So that's where all those numbers lie. I'll go into the winners, the recognition statewide award recognition winners. So every year we try to recognize our volunteers and make sure that they know their efforts are seen and appreciated. And so this year we were able to host an in-person award reception where all of our winners got to meet the secretary, and it was just a great time to really see everyone face to face. You know, a lot of these events are still online, so it's nice to just really meet all of our volunteers in person. So when you have the time, you can just go through and here's a list of all of them as well. So when you have the time, you can just go through this report if you have any questions about charities as well. And here's like a list of all the charities we've given to last year. And yeah. Let's see if anyone has any. Okay. So the main page that you will probably be visiting is this up here in volunteers. So if you go in here, you will have your campaign leader sign in. Let's see if you can see what mine looks like. Oh, okay. Maybe later I'll sign in, but you can sign in here if you need help with that. Erin is great with getting you all signed up with your login, and that's kind of that's where you're going to be logging your fundraisers. You can pull reports after we do any events, any fundraising that uses credit card, so you can pull reports through that site. So here is where you're going to get most of your resources. So in fundraising event resources, we have planning documents. So there's just like a document that a running document that we've kind of created with some fundraiser ideas and like a list of things that you might want to do just to get your gears going on that. We have a checklist, we have event tracking workbook. So when you have the time, you can just kind of go into that and look to see. Robert had mentioned this gambling sheet that we have. So it kind of gives you a one-pager on what not to do and what you can do when it comes to gambling, raffles, all that. See? So yeah, when you have your time, you can kind of log in here. Erin had also mentioned the transfer form. So this is what it looks like. I'm also kind of opening these up just in case you see something and you have a question about it. Feel free to let me know in the chat. We try to break it down for you. She had mentioned the A19 reimbursement forms. So these are where both forms lie. That's in fundraising resources, but you also have the training materials that we talked about today, or that all the information we've talked about today lies somewhere in this page here. So again, it's kind of difficult, our website. I'm just going to go back to our front, give.wall, volunteers, training materials. So here's where all your campaign leader documents will lie. You have the presentation slides that I believe, Daniel, you had mentioned earlier. So here's where you would find that. The A19 form is also up here, the fundraiser transfer form, campaign leader handbook for fiscal. So all of that fundraising and things that Erin just kind of went over, this is the great resource for you to use here. We can kind of cash handling, we had mentioned reimbursements, logging your fundraiser. This is like the snapshot in time of logging your fundraisers. But like I said earlier, we also have video as well. Are there any questions right now? If you have any questions. I know there's just a lot on this website to see, so if you have anything, let me know. Feel free to just unmute yourself and stop me. Let's see. And here we have the Campaign Leader Handbook as well. So this is just your go-to if you need any thought, or kind of like our presentation is summarized from this. So this is if you ever want to look back and say, what was she talking about? That contribution form? That's a good thing. So this is an example of what the contribution forms are. Yeah, so basically everything we've been saying in the presentation kind of expanded here. And ethics, gambling, fundraising ideas, little worksheet that you may be able to use, and some information to contact us. And so when I was talking about videos, we also have videos here. So logging your fundraiser, making a donation, managing your volunteers. There's a bunch of resource videos here for you to just check out. And I would suggest maybe after this meeting, just kind of looking back into our website and just playing around. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at cfd@sos.wa.gov. And there we can just kind of point you in the right direction. I know our website is a bit clunky at times. There's a lot of different clicks. So if you're like, I remember you showed me this, but I can't remember, I will gladly send that right to you. We were talking about marketing materials. So here we have the 2023 campaign materials. So our poster. We have, yeah, so here's our posters, and then the rest of just like different little marketing tools that you can use if you need. There's also the contribution forms that Erin had mentioned. So here you have paper form for active employees. So say you just want to print out 20 of these, you can take these to your event as well if they don't want to use the credit card link or anything like that. They can always fill out a contribution form and follow the necessary procedures that Erin had mentioned. And this is the form that she had talked about when it comes to silent auctions. It's a little bit different, but specific to silent auctions itself. So yeah, a lot of people ask for contribution forms. So here it is, giving materials, contribution forms. And I had mentioned earlier about ordering supplies. This is where you can do that. It's a little bit small on your screen, there on my screen. There you go. Fill out all that information. And then you should be able to just kind of sign up and ask for different things we have. We talked about logging volunteer hours earlier. So this from our homepage, you would go to CFD charities or search, and you can also click on donate online. So either one, donate online or search for CFD charities. So say you had volunteered for the CFD. You would click, look for the CFD. Here we are. In this big green button here, you can log your volunteer hours with this charity. So if you click here, this is a great way to track, or this is the place to track your volunteer hours. Of course, we're always missing volunteer hours because I know a lot of people do volunteer on their own time and they might not record it, but we just encourage you to do that so that we can recognize your agency and recognize those hours because they do mean something to us and they do mean something to your charities. Like I will show you here. Volunteer hours actually account for a good amount of money. So last year, in total, our agencies volunteered over 20,000 hours, which ended up being about $608,000, which is huge. Last year, I think we had 3,000 hours the year before that. So it's really cool when agencies say, you know what, our goal this year, we're going to focus on volunteerism. And they, 1 year DSHS really did that. And they made a huge impact on our numbers. And so speaking of impact, we recognize that our volunteers do so much for us, and we would not be where we are as a team of 4 without all of our wonderful volunteers. So we like to do a recognition event and award giving at the end of every campaign. So this is our 2022 statewide awards. And so we break it down into the different categories, roles, and agencies. So we award the executive leadership, the local coordinator of the year, the local coordinator of the year team award. We have a innovative fundraising event award. So the events that just really stood out throughout the campaign and made a huge difference. And the nominations are all made by you, so your peers and your team and your employees, if they really feel that you did an outstanding job, like we want to hear about it, we want to know. And so we ask you at the end of the campaign and early next year, like the beginning of every year, to just kind of think about the volunteers that really made a difference during the campaign and make sure to like nominate them, because this is all volunteer time. So we recognize that and we want to make sure that we are appreciating you and letting you know that we would not be where we were without you. So we had Campaign Leader of the Year. Here's some winners, and we also do agency statistical awards. So we break that down into 2 different awards. We have the donor participation percentage. So like I showed you in the annual report, how the different agencies broke down with donors, amount given, and the participation percentage. This is just a snapshot of the winners for that. So we broke them down into small agency, medium, large, universities, and colleges. And these were the 2022 winners. A quick story on the Secretary of State's office, just because, you know, we work there. But last campaign leader, Stephanie Prentice, she really wanted to get participation going. And so what she had done was she had a Taco Tuesday incentive where she pitted all of our divisions against one another, and in a friendly competition, of course. And she had everyone, whoever gave the most and had the highest participation percentage among the divisions would get a taco party or taco bar party at the end of the allotted time that she had. So it was really cool because from that one fundraiser, we had increased our participation, and then we ended up winning the medium agency. So something cool like that. If you really just focus on one goal, you don't have to do 5 things at once. But and similar with DSHS, when they wanted to just have focus on volunteerism, they made a huge difference in their volunteer hour numbers. And speaking of, here are the winners of our volunteer hours. So these are just cool ways to just make sure you know that we care and are excited about your giving and your volunteerism. And this is a picture of our reception that we had this year. Oh, wow. Do we have any questions so far? Team, am I missing something? We can go into. No. Okay, cool. So, and of course, like I said, if you have any other questions and you need some direction later on about where was that thing, please reach out to us. That was a lot of me just point things out, but so what what's next? Now that we've done this presentation, and yeah, they did do a talent show. It was really cool. Very fun. I think the campaign leader who ran that, or the volunteer who ran that, also participated, which was fun. Okay, so what's next? We have this 5-week breakdown that you can do now. So you have to get your team started. How are you going to recruit? So we suggest you start with downloading your agency volunteer report, which is housed in the campaign leader sign-in and admin side that I had shown you, but as of right now I couldn't sign in. But so first of all, sign in there, and then you can download your report and work with your leadership to send out an agency message to email those volunteers in 2022. And then I don't have to go through everyone, but these are just some steps that you can take if you would like to just start recruiting and start getting that team together. The earlier the better, so that in August, when there's the local coordinator training, you can have all your ducks in order. I had created this calendar. It's kind of like a calendar breakdown for you. Starting in July, June. Obviously, we're having campaign leader training right now. You can use this 5-week plan. Right now, you can remind the local coordinators to sign up for the training in August. And this is also just like the bare bones of what's happening and what we are doing. So we are promoting these, or we are having a Seahawks preseason ticket auction in July, and you'll always hear from us on that. Like, we'll send out emails to you. But what you can do, you don't have to do a bunch of fundraisers. If you just want to promote what we're doing, that's also great. Like, just getting participation is a huge thing that you can do. Yes, you can get a copy of this presentation. I will, or me, Aaron, or I will send this out with their survey. In August, there will be the local coordinator trainings, which is why this time is really crucial for you to get your team together. August is a great time for you to, once you have that training, you have the training, your local coordinators have a training, so then you guys are all kind of knowledgeable enough to meet with each other, discuss some goals, themes, fundraising ideas, and most importantly, setting up monthly meeting dates. I would suggest at least doing once a month, like get together with your team at least to just review your themes, goals, and how you guys are approaching each one of these goals. We will be having a regular season ticket auction for the Seahawks. So if you want to promote that, that'd be awesome. It's a very popular event for us, and so it pulls in a good amount of money. In September, we will have our leadership breakfast, so we would love for you all to be there. That's just it's right before our kickoff in October, so it's just a great way to see everyone, mingle, and talk with one another. And that's when we'll be also promoting our theme and whatnot, and we'll have we'll have food, we'll have a charity speaker, and so it's always a lot of fun. And what you can also do during that time is promote our First Week to Give campaign kickoff event. And so what First Week to Give is from October, like the first week of October, we say that like anyone who gives $5 or more to a charity or adds on to a previous donation will get a $5 Starbucks gift card. And that one's always super popular, so you would definitely want to just get people excited. It's cool because people always end up giving more than just $5, so it's just a good way to kick off that giving season. And we will also be having another auction in October, so be ready to send out more emails and promote that as well. In November, we will have our charity sweepstakes event. This is something different. We did the charity sweepstakes last year, and they went really well. We also be having Giving Tuesday, which is on, I want to say like November, just the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So it's not necessarily something we host, but it's just it's just something that you can also like kind of attach onto. In December, the fundraiser deadline is December 8th, like Erin had mentioned. And so make sure, please try to get it in before then, but that is the absolute like deadline. Set a date in January so that you can share all of your campaign results and celebrate the successes with your agency. And like I said, keep outstanding volunteers in mind for statewide recognition awards, because that's just a great way for you to recognize one another. Do we have any questions on this 6-month out timeline? Well, do we have any questions in general? Because that was a lot of information for all of us. Back to the camera. And there's my team.
We're here. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
Processing.
For sure. Yeah, no problem.
There's not a test. You guys are safe.
This is just for you, your time.
I got to go back to Bonnie Jacques and tell her I know what's going on. So I think there is a test for me.
That is fair.
Kelly, what question do you have?
So I'm needing a little bit of clarification on the volunteer hours. I was on the committee last year, but I wasn't actively co-leading or leading the committee. How, as far as like time that we put into CFD and on the committee, are those supposed to be logged as volunteer hours?
No, so you're
No.
getting paid on state time to do that, so you're not volunteering.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you were to do something, let's say
Out on your own time.
yeah, let's say like LCB said, yeah, you can do that, but not on state time, then it's volunteer hours, and you're in that weird gray area. But if you're doing something and you're also getting paid for it, then it's not volunteering. So yeah.
Okay, that's helpful, because I had asked, someone had asked me that question, and I'm like, oh, I need to ask that question, because I don't remember doing anything of the sort last year when I was on the committee. So I just was asking.
Yeah, and you can log volunteer hours for any of our member charities. So the only time like people sometimes feel a little frustrated is like, let's say they volunteer at their church, or a small group that maybe isn't registered as a 501c3. They're not going to be listed on our charity list. And so that's the only downside is, we are only recognizing member charities, which to be a member of the CFD, you basically just have to have a 501c3 status, and you have to be registered in the state of Washington as a charity. The bar is pretty low, but we don't currently like recognize the volunteerism that is outside of those member charities.
Got it. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, so no test. And really, if nothing else, we just want you to take away that people are feeling burnt out. We're in this weird post-pandemic world where half meetings are virtual, half are in person, and we're trying to figure out what's left from right. And so just trying to create those intentional moments. I was talking in group 1 about, is it going to a divisional meeting? Is it going to an all-staff meeting? Is it reaching out to, for example, the Secretary of State's office? We're a medium-sized agency. We have about 300 FTE. So we have one campaign leader, and we have a co-campaign leader this year that's helping her. And what they've decided that works for the Secretary of State's office, because even though we're housed in the Secretary of State, we don't run the OSOS because we don't want to be biased, and we're running a whole statewide campaign. So they have one volunteer or local coordinator from each of the 7 divisions within CFD. So there's one campaign leader and 7 local coordinators. That's what works for them. But it helps because then they can curtail their messaging to each division. If they have a division-wide meeting, there's someone in the room that can talk and speak up about the CFD. And I think it's sometimes just circling back. It's really overwhelming when you're a new employee, and letting people know it's really a two-step process. Step one is find a charity that you want to donate. You can either use our search engine on give.wa.gov, or we have a searchable PDF that has the listing of all of our charities. And step two is donate. And so you can either create an online profile on give.wa, or if you don't want to, you can fill out that fillable PDF that Layla was showing you, or you can print them off and fill them out pen and paper and send them to us. It's really those two steps. That's it. We don't require you to do anything else. We try to make it as simple as possible. People feel overwhelmed when I say, Anita, figure out which charity you want to donate. There's only 4,700 to choose from. So sometimes what we've seen go really well for agencies is they host a charity fair. So if you are back in person, they reach out to charities that are in their county and say, hey, we're going to have you guys table. We'll have some like ice cream sandwiches or cotton candy or something, right? And so like what we're doing as Thurston County is there's going to be a charity fair in the middle of July that will have, I think, 40 different charities that are just going to be talking about activities. We're going to be giving away some stuff just to get people understanding that there's more in their community than just the agency that they work for. And so some agencies will take it a step further and decide we are ecology, so we want to promote these 10 charities. And so you make it a little easier for people. Sometimes too many options is a lot. But then giving them, hey, there's these 10 that we're promoting, but if you don't see what you like, and then at the end, don't see what you like, look at all 4,000 of them. Go right ahead. So, we want to, I think this year we're really focused on just having those intentional connections, reaching out and reestablishing relationships to what the CFD is about. We know that money is tight. We know that it's hard right now. We saw almost a $500,000 decrease in money raised in the last year, and we're still number 2 in the nation because everyone experienced that. So we're not doing a bad job. And I definitely want to hit home with that is we're still doing really well. We're the 12th or 13th largest state by population, and we're the 2nd or 3rd on any given year in workplace giving for state workers. So it's a really impressive number, and it's really just building those intentional connections, reaching out to people, and letting them know how easy it is. Because once you set it up, it really is set it and forget it. I think every year I've been adding, or every couple months, I add like a $5 monthly deduction. And when I get used to missing those $2.50 per paycheck, I do it again. And I'm up to like $35 a month. And at this point, I don't notice it as much because I've done it slowly and incrementally over the years. But it is something that, at the end of the year, I just get this tax statement that's like, great job, Robert. You donated $500 or $300 or whatever I donated. And I don't really have to second guess it. So appreciate your time. We'll stick around and keep asking, or we'll keep answering questions that come in if you're a little shy or you need to formulate it. Easiest way to get a hold of us, cfd@sos.wa.gov is an email that all 4 of us check regularly and respond to. So I'm happy to kind of help you brainstorm, work through things, tell you, hey, it's been done before, or tell you, oh my gosh, it's a big hurdle. But if it's your first year, start small. You don't have to do the 2,000 person golf tournament. Like, you just don't. It's totally okay. We have a couple agencies that do really big events. And so if you are interested in doing a big event, we can tell you about one that's happening, and you can go and spy on them and learn from them. And everyone's really friendly. Everyone's always willing to help and share the expertise that they have, because we're all here being part of something bigger than our agencies, right? And that's the cool part about the CFD. And that's my soapbox speech for the day. So I'll be done.
Do you ever see agencies partner in fundraising events so that they can be bigger and bolder and badder?
Yeah, sometimes we haven't lately. So we came in a weird time. We came in mid-pandemic. What we see sometimes is agencies will put on an event that's either open to the public or that they'll shell out to other agencies. So like L&I does a car show usually in the beginning of August. DOC, DSHS do a couple golf tournaments that they reach out, they start broadening their scope if they don't fill the spots right away. Sometimes when you do like a 5K run walk, we'll send it to all our volunteers. So that's the other great thing is if you tell us like you're supposed to that there's an event going on, we can then share that event with all the volunteers and say, you know, there's a doggy fun run around Capitol Lake. Yes, we will send that to, you know, all of our volunteers to let them know that this agency is doing this event, and you can participate or you can help. We haven't seen a lot of co events. We've just seen a lot of events that are open to more than just individual agencies. In the past, we've seen challenges between agencies. So like Secretary of State and was it Department of Corrections? Aaron? No, it was, help me.
Retirement systems.
It was DRS. Like we did a head-to-head competition of like who can participate more, who can raise more. So, you know, you could do that where like if you and another agency wanted to do, you know, a food can drive between each other, and then of course you can figure out what's the weighted average if your organization is double the size of the other one. Like, you know, does yours count for half the amount of weight or whatever you figure out is fair and or equitable rather. So we have seen those kind of things like the friendly competitions, but I would love to see a partnership if there was interest in something. We've seen more of the friendly competition and then the opening up to more than just the individual agency.
Thank you.
I want to throw in that the OSOS office did not win against DRS, and then the non-winning team had to do a music video. It was going to be a karaoke challenge, but then it ended up being a music video. So Secretary Wyman at the time had created this awesome video with some background dancers. And then it was shown at one of the leadership breakfasts.
Yeah, friendly competitions work. We had at Secretary of State, we had an assistant secretary and a deputy secretary, and they were both leaving because Kim Wyman had been appointed to the Biden administration at that point. And so they did a pie to see you goodbye. And so we raised funds of who was going to be able to pie the other person, and people like lost their marbles over this idea of watching the two high up people like throw pies at each other. You know, people are motivated by strange things. We saw Halloween, what was the worst Halloween candy costume or contest, and people voted for it, and we raised like $4,000 because people hated candy corn so much. So what motivates people sometimes is hard to navigate, and so there's not really a bad idea, especially if it's a low risk idea. You know, trying it and seeing what happens is not a bad idea, but we want to be respectful of your time. We know you have 2 minutes. If you have to head out, that's totally fine. We'll send a follow-up email with the slides as well as a survey here in the next week or so when we wrap up training for all of our campaign leaders. We'll stick around until 3, but thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you. And please don't be strangers. Please ask questions. We want to be here for you and help you have a successful 2023 campaign. I'm tired. My throat's a
I
little
really
dry.
died out that second half. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dying.